Welcome to Gate TV. You joined me for another episode of our third series of Unlocking the Gate. This series is dedicated to celebrating the amazing 125 years that Margate Football Club has been around. We've got some amazing guest lines up, and I'm delighted for this episode to be joined by Mark Munday. Mark, thank you so much for giving up your time to have a chat with us. We've got plenty to talk about: your time as a player, all those goals you scored in midfield, former teammates and so on. But I know you're a local lad and the area means a lot to you. And I just wanted to know, what does Margate Football Club mean to you?
Well, it's been a big part of my life as a local lad. Absolute pleasure and proud to be, invited to join in and celebrate Margate's 125 years. And being local, it makes it even nicer. I do appreciate that, not every player can be local that plays for Margate, but if you do actually live in the area, and I've been in the area all my life, so same as Paul, it does become a large part of your life, because for a long time, they were, or still are, the primary club in the area. I know Ramsgate are very, are still in the throes, but Margate was always the senior club in the area, and it was always an aspiration to play for them or play as high as you could.
I think it's really lovely that in non-league football there's still that essence of playing for your local team and having that player pathway there, and that was the case for you. And I want to take it right back to the start, where you began your career and your development at Thanet United. Was that a good place to learn your trade?
Yeah, very much so. As a young lad as well, so I was playing for Thanet United first team at 16, so thrown in at the deep end. Football was a lot different back in them days. You'll probably hear that a bit from the older ones. And it was a steep learning curve. You had established non-league players at Margate, Thanet United as it was then. Norman Fuslow was a manager. Ricky, his brother, played. You had Neil Cudley, who's done 1,001 games at Folkestone. Dave Carr, who was an absolute legend, and what a great lad he was. Paddy Hilton, Bobby Wilson. You had to learn quickly because they looked after you, but they expected you to pull your weight. So, if you was in the team, it was because you was effectively good enough. So they treated you like anyone else, but they protected you, obviously, which was always nice. And funny, I see Neil now and again when he's got another 1,000 game under his belt. I saw a couple of lads up at West Ham a few weeks ago, and you never lose that. All right, Mark, and they all see me as a young lad, you know what I mean? And I see them as a bit of the father figure. So it was it was always very nice, but there was a long way back there, I have to say. But it was a tough league to be in. You had to grow up quickly. You had to learn how to protect yourself, and you had to, perform. Simple as that.
And you did perform. You became the club's youngest goal scorer at the age of 16. Now, those kind of moments can't leave you. Can you recall that moment and that goal?
Memory's not that good. It's about 34 years ago. So yeah, I believe it was at Woking in an FA Cup game. Or I know that was one of my more memorable goals, but it was when I was only young. And it was either the winner or it sealed the win. So I think we won 3-1, 3-2 or something like that. And I had to come on as sub. The boys were doing so well. I mean, they Woking like they are now, a real good non-league side. We went up there, a little bit of the underdogs in the FA Cup, and come away with a right good victory. But I came on, hit a strike from outside the box, flew in the top corner, and the rest is history. My dad was going mad. He'd come up on the coach to watch me, or whatever I got, so 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was. But then you got the congratulations and the pats on the back from, your established teammates, and that makes it
Do you
nice
know what I love? Is celebrating 125 years of the football club, but that for players like yourself and your families, those are the memories that do stay with you a lifetime, the pride for your dad and for yourself as well. And I understand in those early days, did you used to play with your brother as well? What was that like?
Yeah, he was, my brother was signed as a schoolboy for Crystal Palace. So through the schoolboy years, I mean, John was miles ahead of me as a footballer, absolutely, so looked up to him in certain ways in respect to that, because he was a very, very good player. And then he broke his leg didn't progress much more than that, but then started playing, non-league football, and he come and it was obviously with Margate as well. And to play in any first team scenario with a sibling or a family member is really quite memorable. And he did a real good job at left back or left midfield when he played. And it was a time when there was a few promising youngsters in the area that were starting their career out at Thanet. Johnny Mayer was another one, very good player. Joe Radford was a goalkeeper who was, they was doing trials here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, it's always nice to play with with a sibling, your brother, in a first team makes it even better. And also, like you say, when you look in the stands and your mum and dad's there and they're pleased and proud. So and also most supporters are local, so you knew some of them as well. So it was always nice to not one of us but two of us.
Yeah, a real family affair, that's for sure. And then from Margate and from Thanet United, sorry, you went and trained with Ramsgate for a bit, went on to play for Ashford, Herne Bay before Gravesend and Northfleet broke their transfer record to sign you. Again, that must have been a very proud moment for you.
It was, yeah. So when I was at Thanet United initially, you muted to that I played for a little bit of training with Ramsgate. I was actually playing for their under-18 side with Bob Wickens and playing for Margate first team at the same time. So I actually got sacked by Margate by Gary Alders, who was the manager at the time, because I decided to play for Ramsgate under-18s team in the midweek rather than go training with the first team. So no malice about it. I understood the reasons and they understood mine, and we just parted company. But it was my first attempt at going a little bit higher was that period. I went to Ashford United, who again were it was called the Beezer Homes Premier at that time, and I was only 16. I was playing for Kent, but captain of Kent, and they asked me to come down, and I signed for them, but just wasn't ready to take that step up. But when you have a season at non-league in the first team, and then, like you say, you go to Herne Bay or have a season in men's football, you then feel that you might be ready for it. And when Gravesend came calling, to make the step up, I did feel like I was ready as regards that. So, but it was an interesting time because the manager at Gravesend at the time was Gary Alders, who was the manager that sacked me at Thanet United. So all I say is that, on the pitch, you be focused and, on the ball, but off the pitch, if you're, quite humble, quite nice or approachable, you don't fall out of anyone, you respect their decisions. He never hesitated to come in and pay money for me, and I never hesitated to sign for him. So that's always a good sign, effectively. So, but yeah, from, what could have been, with social media these days, what could have been quite awkward if you made a comment becomes just, that's water under the bridge, simple as that.
Absolutely. I think it's it's an important lesson and something that's really unique to non-league football. It's a very small community. It's a very small world. And like you say, nowadays with social media, if a Margate player was caught training for the enemy down the road, like you say, but there was that element of professionalism and you were a young player simply trying to develop, and he obviously saw that talent in you. So from that point, fast forward 8 years, you came back to Hartsdown Park in a deal that linked in with your teammate Paul Latton. Did you feel, given the manner of your exit the first time around, that there was just a little element of unfinished business with the club?
It fitted perfectly for me at the time. So being up at Gravesend, had some really great times, good FA Cup runs, great memories, but also played with Paul, played with Mark Harrop, again, all become really good friends. Lee Turner, who turned out for Margate as well. And, I keeping in contact with them as you do. You heard that Margate was progressive. They was looking to do things. They was looking to progress. And me being local, did I want to carry on going up the A2? No, I would rather have my home games 2 minutes from where I live. And, at that time, I was my first son was born. So I didn't particularly want to be spending too much time away from the family home. So it all just fell into place, to be honest with you. But the lure of coming back was only because I was always quite driven and focused with my football in respect of playing the highest level you could. You had a club that was progressing. financially, they was well backed. Players and signings that they were making at the time were impressive. And obviously you had Chris as a manager whose track record is absolutely second to none, you know, in respect of winning stuff and that. And so when a manager like that and a club comes along that is close to your heart, you generally don't say no. So, which was nice. And yeah, they paid a fee for me and Paul, but I think at the time the fee was warranted. You know, you don't pay a fee for no reason, because it's, you know, it's money is valuable these days, especially with a non-league club. So, but it was nice to hear that they paid a fee. But it was just nice to get back local and, you know, into a club that I knew was looking to do stuff.
And you went on to do stuff, and we will reflect on a handful of memories, I'm sure. But I have to ask you, first of all, about that FA Cup game against Fulham in front of the Sky Sports cameras. You step up to take the penalty. That's got to be a memory that sticks with you for a long, long time.
It is, and every FA Cup first round day, it sometimes gets played on Sky Sports, so it's even better. So, you know, my sons are now old enough; they're both playing non-league football as well. So they're friends and everything like that. So it was on just a VHS video previously, but now it's, you know, it can be saved on Sky and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, very much so. It was a Super Cup run, without a doubt. It was a good day apart from the result, but yeah, I think a few people phoned me or whatever it was and said, I won a few quid on you being the first goal scorer, which was nice at that time. But yeah, in the Fulham side that day was a lad that played in midfield. I think it was Richard Carpenter, and I played against him. He's my age. Played against him for years and years, youth level. He was local. He was Kent based, and he knew which side I went for my penalties. So he was giving the keeper the heads up, saying he goes that side, because I did hit my penalties the same side, and I changed at the very last minute and scuffed it. It wasn't the best penalty, but it hit the back of the net, which was perfect. So I thought if I'd have gone my normal side, the keeper might have, you know, had a chance of saving it. So I changed my mind at the last time and stuffed it in. And then if you see the celebration, I didn't really know what to do with myself, to be fair.
And absolutely, in the FA Cup, it doesn't matter how you score the goal, scuffed or otherwise. It's a memory no one can take away from you. And talking about memories, if you were to pick out 3 of your favourite memories from your time as a Margate player, they don't necessarily even need to be results. They could be quite memorable road trips. What would those top 3 be? This is the one that supporters love to hear, because it's often when really interesting stories come out.
Yeah, there's probably a few that we can't say in respect of stories getting. Yeah. I have to say that obviously the Fulham scoring the goal in the FA Cup was, you know, always very good. The crowd, the atmosphere, you know, the occasion, Kevin Keegan, and that was really good. Winning in respect of games, winning the league. On the night that we played Newport at home at Hartsdown to go into the conference was, the atmosphere was spine. The old hairs on the back of your neck go up and everything like that. So it was there for football base. They were, you know, you can't beat that. And the crowd was absolutely unbelievable. Support was unreal. And, you know, just the squad mentality and the camaraderie that we had between each other was absolutely brilliant. And, you know, you make friends for life. You might not see them every week, but, you know, every now and again we have a beer out and everything drops back to normal. So, and probably thirdly was, you know, coach travel to and from games. I mean, Ian O'Connell was, you couldn't turn your back on him, to be honest with you. If you did, you had all sorts coming at you. And it's, you know, when we're talking about people not having any clothes on and sticking things where they shouldn't be sticking things and everything like that. It was just, and chasing you around the change room because we got to a place too early, and, you know, him going into the toilet and then chasing you around the changing room with something that you shouldn't be chasing you around with. So, but it builds, and this is when we're, you know, in the Beezer Homes Premier pushing for a title. You'd think that people would be quite nervous, quite reserved and stuff like that, but it just wasn't the case with you know, Ian, Billy Edwards, Lee Turner, Graham Porter, these sort of people, Phil Collins, Sykesy, Bubsy, these sort of people. Always, you had to be keeping on your toes. So, yeah, there was a few away games, travel by coach, travel by train, that were, you know, pretty memorable, I have to say. It's but probably not suitable for
Yeah, maybe
this
some
sort of
stay in the
conversation.
changing room, but it's clear that that was a recipe for success. On the one side, having that camaraderie, a bit of fun, but make no marks about it. As soon as you and your teammates crossed that white line onto the field of play, you had a competitive edge. And do you think that helps you have each other's back and just become really unbeatable? It certainly felt like that, having spoken to Chris Kinnear, like in terms of his management style. He let you have that, and it served dividends on the pitch as well.
Massively did, without a doubt. And Chris's massive strength was his choice of player. He knew the player that would suit his system. He knew the player that would suit the way that we played. And he knew the player that wanted to win and matched his drive to win. You know, it was, and the personality of the player, very, very self-sufficient. Few youngsters, but mainly players that are, you know, been tried and tested at this sort of level, but with still a hunger to do more. So, but of course, that camaraderie, once you cross that white line, finishes, but business starts. And, you know, I knew exactly what Elliot Martin, John Keister or Jay Saunders were going to do alongside me. And I knew what Phil Collins and Leon Braithwaite would do in front of me. But I also knew that Lee Turner, Bill Edwards, Lammy, Tony Dixon, Graham Porter were doing behind me. So you had absolute trust in everyone that was there. And it just made you feel that every time you went out there, you was going to, you know, take a positive result. And more often than not, in the years when we went through the leagues, it was more often than not that we won more games than we didn't. But yeah, and then when you finish playing and you cross the white line, you're back to, you know, having a joke, having a laugh, and, you know, just relaxing and going from there. But yeah, the attitude when we was looking to win leads or in a position to win leads was so relaxed. It was good. Chris never overloaded you with tactics. He never overloaded you with intricacies of the game and how he feel that other players on their side might influence it. He was all worried about what we did, and if we did our jobs, we was all good enough to win games and win leads. And that was his strength, massive strength. When I became a manager for a year myself, you try to, you know, draw on them experiences, but he was a definite one-off because he was successful everywhere he's been, and quite rightly so, you know.
It's fascinating to hear that insight, because especially nowadays, obviously there's so many people that are qualified, they do, you know, they do their badges and so on, but actually sometimes just the simple basics, and that kind of empowering it's about what we do as a team as much as it is about the opposition. And there was clearly a special bond between you and that squad that went on, you know, to achieve so much. And you clearly are friends, like you mentioned earlier on. You see each other at West Ham or the football world, so to speak. Were there any teammates that you really did in particular enjoy playing with, that you felt you had a really good combination, synergy and understanding with?
Well, through the early part of the time, obviously, Mark Harrop, Paul Landsey and Lee Turner, because we was all together at Gravesend, and then obviously came back together at Margate. But I think when we was going through the leagues, I think the combinations of Billy Edwards, myself, Jay, he came as a young lad at Gillingham and fit straight in. He was perfect for the way we played. And Elliot Martin. So, you know, I hadn't played with them sort of players before, but in the early years, Lee Spiller, you know, Sykesy, Martin Buglione, these are, you know, real good players that you haven't played with before. You think, yeah, I think I could enjoy playing with them. And, you know, they didn't disappoint. So as a three in midfield, my favourite trio was myself, Elliot and Jay. And on the times that we went forward, obviously everything changes, everything develops. You can probably throw Lee Spiller in on that as well, because he was a really, really good, honest, hard-working player. But that's probably my favourite trio at Margate that I played in a midfield with, and then John Keister came into the mix, which again adds a bit of quality there as well, as everyone knows about John. So apart from the ones that I've been played with at previous clubs, they were the trio that I really enjoyed and felt really comfortable with.
And are there any former teammates that you're still friendly with, that you still keep in contact with today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we often have, it's now an old boys' night out, but we used to, the majority of them were like London-based. So there's Billy Edwards, myself, Paul Lamb, Lee Williams, Charlie Mitten, Lee Turner. They all turn up. Leon Braithwaite and, Phil Collins. So it's more location than anything else. But yeah, so they're the main ones that we meet up with. Even going back to the first year I was at Margate, Tommy Plank, he always and sometimes makes an appearance on a night out as well, and he's always a good value as well.
We'll have to get you guys all together and come to a match day, take over, the sponsored lounge or something, get together, have some beers, because of course, you mentioned him there as a player you used to like playing alongside. Jay is now the manager. Do you see any sort of similarities in that young player that you played alongside to the sort of manager that he's become?
He's been very successful wherever he's been. I mean, he was really successful at Maidstone. He's a good fit for Margate because, he's played there. Jay's ethics are all about hard work and making sure that, you express yourself at the right time, but, you need to be organised, you need to be professional. And believe in yourself. And I think, as a manager, if you can portray that over to players these days, hopefully you'll get the best out of people. But yeah, I mean, I haven't experienced Jay as a coach, but by him as a player. And when he first came to Margate, he had the support of his family. His dad was always talking to me saying, how did you think Jay did today? Is he settling in? I said, he settled in perfectly. And, Jay will be perfect for the club anyway. If he's anything like a manager that he was a player, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, that family support is so important. And Jay's dad is still at Hartsdown Park following him as a manager. It's always like a really lovely, friendly face to see, which again, I think is a really special quality at Margate Football Club that isn't everywhere. It isn't everywhere. It's a very special quality that you can kind of go however many years, come around again, and it's still, friendly, familiar faces there for you. And just reflecting on that achievement, I think given how stop-start the last couple of seasons has been, for a football club to be in existence for 125 years, that is something. And I just wanted to ask you, how important do you think it is that clubs like Margate are about still providing opportunities, still trying to do good in the community? Because as you mentioned at the very start of our conversation, they were there for you and they gave you that pathway to go and enjoy a really bountiful career.
Absolutely. And I'll say as a father now, and I've got two 25 and 22-year-old lads that play, and the opportunity that you need is there, and it's for you to take it, dependent upon obviously your talent and so on and so forth. But the club needs to be and continue to be a massive part of the community. When the club is successful, the support is there. I mean, even supporters that now you see out and about have been there for years and years and years, so they're still supporting the club now than they supported them when I was there. So it was but yeah, it's integral that the local clubs survive, and it must be murder to try and drive funds and support the wage bills and the expenses of just everyday league 40 games. It's I couldn't imagine what it's about. But yeah, it's vital that then these sort of clubs remain because it's the lifeblood. If my lads get to play for Margate, I'll be pleased as punch. Absolutely. I'm as proud as anything where they're playing at the moment. So that doesn't really matter, to be honest with us. As a parent, you'd be proud with that. But, the Margate scenario for them would be, they would enjoy it and I would as well.
You know what's written in the stars, because, you clearly are so widely respected at the football club. You're a part of its history. You're a part of its fabric. And I just wanted to ask you, what does it feel like to know that you are sort of held in such high regard at a club that's got a heritage of the life that Margate does?
It's nice, and because it's nice because it's local. It's but as simple as that. I've moved house. I've moved house recently, probably in the last year. My next door neighbour, when I moved in, he come round and said, "You used to play for Margate?" And I was like, "Yeah." So you don't advertise the fact, "Hi, I'm here and play for Margate." But I used to come with my dad and watch her. Starts a conversation. The bloke that collects the bins, he said, "Oh, isn't it great that Margate are doing well with Jay now?" And he said, "I used to come and watch you when you was playing with Jay in there." All walks of life, and because you're local, you say you get recognised, but people can approach you and start a conversation, and it's always a good conversation starter as regards that. So it's nice that people you remember for the first thing, because it was a long time ago, and also recognise that you're approachable, and that they feel that you'd like to have a nice conversation about Margate, and always going to be the case. So. But it is nice, I have to say. The wife rolls her eyes every now and again as she goes out. "Oh, guess what?" And my lads are more than happy with it, because it wins them a little bit of brownie points with their team. So, but yeah, it's a pleasure and an honour to if people just recognise you and recognise your achievements, and that you was part of something that was successful at the time.
Yeah, it's a wonderful conversation starter, and it's so lovely to hear. Again, sometimes we can get so fixated on a Saturday at 3 p.m, but the football club is so much more than that. And the fact that you're having those conversations with people, and that local community element is still there, it's lovely to hear. And Mark, I just want to thank you again for joining us for this series of Unlocking the Gate. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I could probably talk to you for hours about all the different movies as well, but like you say, some of them might not be so suitable. Those away trips sound very intriguing. But thank you so much for being a part of our 125th seasonal celebration.
I think no problem whatsoever. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And do make sure that you subscribe to Gate TV, so you are the first to know when the latest episodes of this very special celebratory series of Unlocking the Gate drop. But until next time, take good care, and we'll see you soon.